Hello, dear friend, and welcome. For quite some time, I've been wanting to present to you, and here's the subject, how I discovered Robert Fritz, author of Creating, and why I almost ran away from him. And here's the focal point of this presentation. Creating is about two relative points. One of those relative points is understanding current reality. So my hope is, if I share with you my past current reality of how I discovered Robert Fritz, what led me to Robert Fritz, and why did I almost run away from him. My hope is by sharing this with you that you will consider. This might help you to understand, and you may choose Robert Fritz as your teacher, mentor, and guru. But I hope that he doesn't scare you like he scared me there for some time. So the short story is, by this time in my life, I had been an entrepreneur, a creator for quite some time, both for my individually creating and working within companies, organizations, small and large. At this time in my life, this question was burning on my mind. Why are so many hardworking, well-meaning, well-educated people struggling so hard to, at that time I thought to do, but actually to create what it is they're trying to create? And as I drove to Arizona for the very first time to meet my brother Chris, who owns Phoenix Freight Forwarding, this was constantly on my mind. So as they say, when the student's ready, the teacher appears. On my way down to Arizona, Phoenix, Arizona, I stop in for the first time to Sedona, Arizona. From what I understand, the land of enchantment. That's about all I knew. So as I'm driving around Sedona, I see a little bookstore up on the hill. I say, well, I'll go in and see if there's any seminars going, anything I can learn, or a book maybe I can pick up. As I walk in, the small seminar's in session. I think there might have been 10 people total. I don't remember any specifics about that little workshop. But as I left, a young lady by the name of Diana, who I'll never forget for this, looked up at me and said, "Why are you here?" The best question any consultant, any person wanting to help another person can ask, and then be quiet. So I looked at her and said, I'm trying to figure out why so many hardworking, well-meaning, well-educated people are struggling so hard to create that which they're trying to create. And she looked up at me and said, hey, I think you ought to read. And she puts into my hands Robert Fritz's first book, The Path of Least Resistance. And it could not have been more than 3-4 pages in. And I said, this is it. This gentleman understands what I've been looking for. Compared to, over the years, I have been immersed in many other teachers and many other mentors, including as far back as Napoleon Hill. And we kind of go from there. Of course, Stephen Covey. Of course, many other self-help experts. If you Google or go on Amazon, hundreds of thousands of self-help experts for both personal and professional help. I said, this gentleman knows something different. This is the foundation that I believe I need to learn, and I believe many others need to learn. So as I ventured in that way and read through the book, which has many highlights and all sorts of underlining, things that most people probably never do, including myself anymore these days, within, I think it was 3 to 5 days, I was at a conference, and Diana, who introduced me to Robert, was at a conference in Sonoma, California, with Robert Fritz and Rosalind Fritz. That fast. Chasing down this teacher, chasing down my mentor, chasing after someone I knew I could learn from. Within this 3-day seminar, on the second day, people were gathered together at the end of the bed, teachers, doctors, housewives, myself, and the conversation was, why are we here and what are we learning? And I thought to myself, that's kind of strange to be asking after we're already here for 3 days. As I look back on that, what we are here to learn, especially from Robert Fritz, is to develop our structural sensitivity. Specifically within Robert's work, structure determines behavior. All the elements that make up the whole determine the behavior of the whole, the direction that the whole is moving in. How do we know that we're sensitive to, that we see all the elements that make up the whole? What I'm sharing with you about education is an important element that we don't see, which is the foundation. Sir Isaac Newton, all learning is but remembrance. So Robert's work is in that way. We're developing our structural sensitivity. We're going from club hands. Never learned anything about structural dynamics, never heard about it, don't know any authorities on it. I've never learned it, practiced it, so of course I don't have any mastery, so of course I have clubbed hands. As we begin to learn, as we begin to practice, and our mastery develops, we begin to become the pianist. Got those finer notes, or on the piano, this is the deeper notes. Got those finer notes. And we're becoming the pianist. So when we enter into our own personal situation or a group situation, and there's inharmony, we say, wait a minute, don't blame the people, don't blame the employees, don't blame the customers. If there's inharmony, there's a lack of structure, there's a lack of rules. How do I know that I see the crack in the bowl? Because if I try to fix this in any other way, and I've not identified one of the key elements, the crack in the bowl, no matter what I pour in, it's going to continue to leak out. So for K-12 public education, we continue to pour in money, time, energy, people trying their best, working hard, educated people, the people I have been wanting to help. And as we pour all that into that bowl, that crack of never having learned how to memorize is where all of this is leaking out. So until we cork that, teaching children a proven, dependable, repeatable method for memorizing, which, oh, by the way, is the same proven, dependable, repeatable method for creating, keep pouring the money in, keep pouring the time in, keep pouring the love in, keep pouring the concern in, keep pouring the commitment in. Guess what? No change. Zero. Nada. Nothing. So, why did I almost run away from Robert Fritz? Because, as I share with you, I'm the comforter. I bring this from that point of the mother, because I'm a Cancer, which is a sign of the mother. I understand that I need the father opposite, Capricorn, father structure, if I'm going to truly mother. If you're in astrology, this would make sense. If you're not in astrology, it's the bowl is the father, I'm the mother part. I'm saying if I'm going to mother more children, teenagers, adults, senior citizens, then I as mother need to understand the structure of the father and make sure it's leak proof. We got a heck of a big leak. This leak's been going on forever. That's why our children are getting beat up. Our students, our teenagers, our adults. So the reason I almost ran away from Robert Fritz is during my first conference, I brought to that conference my concepts. Especially after learning from these different so-called experts. You bring a lot of that in. Is it proofable? Memorization's proofable. Creating can be proofable too. Same method. So when I brought these concepts in, I think it was the second day, I walked out on Robert. I'm like, man, forget about it. Very nice gentleman put his arm around me and said, hey, what's going on? When I walked back in, Robert looked up. Russell and I have agreed to give each other another chance. And we continued on. I did not run away. Too often, I have family members and friends who run away. Let's see, either you can choose path A, which is to debate me professionally on my principles, because you don't agree. You could choose path B, say, I agree, I'm hearing you, doesn't make complete sense, but I understand the gist of what you're sharing, and participate and help, but don't choose C. Whoops, sorry about that finger. Don't choose C, which is not professionally debating, not agreeing and participating, but choosing to personalize, which gets us nowhere. So please, if this makes sense to you, then one method, we should have learned this method for memorizing, proven, dependable, repeatable method for memorizing, which is what Russell's saying is the same proven, dependable, repeatable method for creating. I don't recommend you go to Robert Fritz's 3-day class unless you are ready, unless you've already somehow interacted with Russell. Truthfully, I'll be truthful with you. If you hung on this long in the video, here comes the truth. Can you take this heat and begin to exchange? Either debate, I'm open to debate, or agree and participate instead of sitting on the sideline. Because if you go to one of Robert's classes, you know what most people do? They sit on the sideline because of the heat. Here's how Robert and I concluded our last class that I attended with he and his wonderful wife, Rosalind. At the end of the 3 days, the teaching assistant, TA, said, Robert and Rosalind want you to sit next to them during closing ceremonies. I thought, uh-oh. Okay. So at the end of the ceremonies, after Robert presented and Rosalind presented and thanked people, Robert mentioned to Rosalind, Rosalind and I want to thank Russell for doing what he always does, which is to fully participate with my teacher, plural, teachers, mentors, Robert and Rosalind Fritz, my gurus. W. Edwards Deming, known as America's guru of total quality management. More presentable, our founding father of total quality management. Only the method matters. His 93 years of work, service to help mankind, to help us, only the method matters. Until we start participating to help others to understand and to experience success with, we will not create real, meaningful, lasting change in America's K-12 public education. Keep pouring the money in, keep naming different programs, keep participating, meetings, decisions, passing bills, passing legislation. It all falls to nada. Zero progress, zero change. The master of change is this guy. Going from our club hands, because we've not learned, to the pianist. Someday, I hope you share with me an element of what you've discovered more clearly. Later, I'll be sharing many of these wonderful worlds that seem correct, but when we look at carefully at, there's an element not seen. The biggest one we need to see is teaching our children how to memorize and how to create. I hope you've enjoyed this presentation. The focal point, I sharing with you my past current reality, hoping that this will benefit you for your future reality. Thank you very much.